It's with great pleasure and honor to welcome former Lieutenant Governor and U.S. Congressman Jim Gardner to introduce our keynote speaker. Please give Jim a warm round of applause.
Thank you very much. When Lodge called me and asked me if I would introduce the governor tonight, I started thinking, what will I say? And the word great came into my mind. And then I began to think a little bit about when I was running for the office that he now holds years ago. You know, as you go around and you speak, people introduce you and they say, we've got Jim Gardner here tonight. He's a great North Carolinian. The next night, the fellow says, Jim Gardner's here tonight. He's a great American. I began to think about that thing a little bit, and I thought, wow, this is pretty strong. I got home one night, and I asked Maria, I said, how many great people do you know? She said, one less than you think, big boy. Our governor grew up in Jamestown, North Carolina, attended public schools there, Catawba College. Then he entered the private world with Duke Power. He moved to Charlotte, North Carolina, and decided to get into public service and ran for city council in the largest city in North Carolina. It wasn't long before the itch got to him and he ran for mayor. And for 14 years, he led the largest city in our state to unbelievable heights. They became the banking capital, not only of the South, but of the whole nation. He brought in the NFL, Carolina Panthers, the NBA franchise. All of this because of his dynamic leadership, and that's what I think we're going to see in the state of North Carolina. And it's my pleasure tonight to introduce to you the great governor of the state of North Carolina, Pat McCrory.
Oh, it's great being back in Rocky Mount. Thank you all very much. You know, I got to let you know a little story. The last time I was in Rocky Mount was the very last gubernatorial debate. And this was in late October, I believe, about a week or two before the election. So it was extremely important. And I decided to get to Rocky Mount about 3 hours early, and I came by the Gardner's house and said, I tell you what I'd like to do, I'd like to take a little nap before the debate. So I took a little nap, and Mrs. Gardner was nervous that I wouldn't get there on time. She woke me up, and she said, you need to go now. And I said, no, I'm not going that early. My driver and I are going to wait 15, 20 more minutes, and we'll get there about a half hour before the debate, because I don't like lost. And he said, don't fire me, but I think we went the wrong way. I put in North Main instead of South Main. And we turned around and we put in the new address to the community college, and it said arrival time 6:58 for a 7 o'clock live debate across the state, right in your beautiful auditorium there. And we started going, and the phone started ringing, and the staff was going, where are you, where are you? And I went, don't worry, we'll get there, we'll get there. And the Gardners, I know, were worried about where I was. And my driver, I said, you're not going to get fired, just turn on the radio. And we cut up the song Maggie May by Rod Stewart, full blast. I mean, full blast. I said, this will relax me for the debate. We got to the community college at 1 minute till 7. As we were walking up the construction ramp or the back loading dock to the auditorium, the audience of several thousand people in that auditorium were applauding. And I went, I think we made it just in time. And it was just, I just want to let you know, my staff after the debate said, that's the best debate you've ever had. So that was my last experience in Rocky Mount, and the Gardners wanted to make sure I got here on time this time, so we left in reasonable time. So thank you for the incredible turnout tonight and also at the debate that we had right before the election. Your welcome here means so much to me. And a lot of you probably thought, well, that Charlotte mayor's getting elected now. We'll never see him again in Rocky Mount. I know, I've heard it. I heard it behind, but we'll never see him again. Let me tell you, I'm coming back again and again and again to Rocky Mount. And not only am I coming back from Rocky Mount, but I've included Rocky Mount because you guys have this coalition of leaders in Rocky Mount that is second to no other town or city in North Carolina. I mean, just look at this audience. First of all, my chief of staff, Thomas Stith, his family grew up right here in Rocky Mount, and I'm very proud to have Thomas Stith. I want you to stand up. My chief of staff, the Stith families from Rocky Mount, North Carolina. My Secretary of Office Administration, one of the most important jobs in my cabinet, is another Rocky Mount man. And I'm very, very lucky that he accepted the secretarial position. And he is doing an outstanding job, and he has some major challenges. Bill Daltridge, please stand up. He's my secretary. I also want to let you know that I've got a great working relationship with our Attorney General. And in fact, he was in the mayor's office today. We're having a great meeting talking about some of the public safety issues in the state and some of the coordination between the governor's office. Roy Cooper, it's great to have you here too. Thank you very much. I'm introducing so many people here already, but I do also want to thank Mayor Combs and his wife. I'm a mayor. I'm bringing a mayor's attitude, Mayor, to the governor's office. So, Mayor, thanks for pinning the Rocky Mount pin on me earlier today. Thank you very, very much. We also have a lot of members of our state delegation, some good friends of mine, Buck Newton, Senator Buck Newton. I love your parents. And go speak to the main streets of towns throughout North Carolina. And today, instead of just coming here to give a speech at the Chamber of Commerce, I actually went to your main street. And I got to see some of the work that many of you are attempting to do to revive your main street and revive the economy of Rocky Mount. And I was very fortunate. I went to go see Douglas Block, the little strip of new retail stores that are entrepreneurs that are trying to start new businesses right in downtown Rocky Mount. I went to visit every one of those entrepreneurs. And to see the spirit of entrepreneurism right in downtown was just a great feeling, because that's what makes our country and our state tick, is people that are willing to take risk with their own capital and willing to rebuild the city and willing to provide great customer service. And every one of those stores, I was just amazed to see these individual shop owners doing everything they can to stay in business and provide good customer service. And I was real impressed, Mayor, also with the infrastructure that you provided to that part of the downtown, and to see the energy and enthusiasm that people are attempting to bring to revive Main Street of Rocky Mount. And we've got to do that throughout North Carolina, is revive Main Street. And that's one reason during my inauguration, typically, the governors are inaugurated and sworn in the government sector of downtown Raleigh on an old 1970s building which faces a parking lot and other government buildings. My wife and I looked at that and we went, you know what? Why don't we do something different this time and have our inauguration at the end of Main Street in downtown Raleigh on the steps of the old state capitol building facing Main Street of Raleigh. And it was a signal that we wanted to communicate that we have government at our back, but we're facing the private sector. Because our goal is to not have government get in the way of the private sector. Our goal is to have the government complement what the private sector needs to do, because if we're going to rebuild the economy of North Carolina, it is going to be the private sector that does it. And we have to do everything we can in government, at times to get out of their way, and at times to implement policies and the right approach to make sure that our existing businesses can grow and thrive and make money. This is the North Carolina economy that brought my parents and brought me to North Carolina in 1966 to Jamestown, North Carolina, and it's an economy that I want the next generation to have. But the fact of the matter is, and I'm going to give you very blunt talk right now, the fact of the matter is the North Carolina economy is going through some tough times. We are still the 5th highest unemployment rate in the country at about 9.3%. And I'm sad to report that this region of the state, unemployment right now is at 13.8%. That means there are a lot of people hurting, and there are a lot of people wondering what their future is, and there are a lot of kids that are graduating and they can't find work and they're moving back in with their parents. And we've got to do everything we can to think out of the box and go, how are we going to revive this economy, and how are we going to give our kids and adults a future? And that's exactly what we're doing, and we're doing it with a sense of urgency, and we're doing it with a sense of not just solving problems, but creating opportunities and seeing that these difficult problems are opportunities. And I saw that, by the way, in talking to, also today went to go visit Body Knoll Company. I had a great visit with the Body family and all their employees. And I saw their enthusiasm. How can we grow their company? They were thinking about the future, and to have that company invest in Rocky Mount in North Carolina is something that I told them we're not going to take for granted, and we're not going to treat you as adversaries. We're going to treat that great company as customers, just like you treat your customers as customers if they're going to survive. And that's the culture that we must bring to state government. Now, let me tell you, we have some immediate issues that we have to deal with. On the governor's plate, on the state legislature's plate, on the attorney general's plate. We're all in this together as a team, Republican, Democrats, Independents, and within all branches of government and the private sector. We're all in this together, and if we're going to solve it, we're going to do it as a team. But there's some immediate fires that I have to put out. One of them, by the way, is something Bill Dalcher is just having to deal with. We are doing a total review of all our facilities and information systems in state government right now, and we're finding out that it's a wreck. It's broken. There hasn't been enough maintenance money put into existing government buildings or existing information systems, so they're falling down at this point in time. It's gotten so bad that the first week in office, the government offices in which all the governor's staff is in those offices caught on fire. This is my first week in office. I meant to ignite the economy, not burn down buildings. They had all the information systems wires on the first floor of the administration building in downtown Wire in a broom closet with a copy machine inside. Thankfully, it caught on fire at 1 o'clock in the afternoon, where a public safety official guarding the building smelled it, immediately got the firefighters there, and they put it out. Had it been another time of night, we're not sure we would have had that quick response, and the building could have been destroyed, and we possibly could have had a loss of life. Bill Dalcher has a major responsibility right now, and he's reviewing all the buildings and all the properties that the state of North Carolina owns, and first is deciding, do we need to still own that property? And second, what is the upkeep and repair? And third, before we build any new buildings, let's make sure we can take care of what we have right now. This is the common sense philosophy that we must bring to state government at this point in time. The second immediate issue that we're dealing with is unemployment compensation. And I'm here today to make an announcement that I'm going to be supporting total reform of how we do unemployment compensation and insurance in North Carolina. And I'm here to announce that I'm going to support a plan in which we will not extend further benefits after July of this year to January of next year. Because I believe if we continue to extend them, it's a failed policy which has not worked in North Carolina and which has created continued high unemployment rates in North Carolina. We have got to get people back to work, and we cannot continue to go in debt on unemployment insurance. In fact, during the past 2 years, we've had to pay the federal government $150 million of interest alone to pay off a $2.8 billion debt that we owe the federal government for unemployment compensation. I'm saying right now, let's pay off the credit card. Because the longer we're on that credit card, paying interest, just like in your own homes, the longest you rely on that credit card and don't pay it off, the digger the hole's going to get for you. And that's exactly what's been happening in North Carolina. And the longer we continue to dig that hole and pay off and build that debt, the more we have to tax small businesses to pay for that unemployment compensation. And the more we tax small businesses to pay that off, the more your businesses will not grow or will not succeed, and you will not hire more people. It's a terrible revolving door that we've put up with for several years. This is not an easy decision for me because there are people hurting right now. But I'm convinced in the long term, if we send a strong signal that we're going to enact policies to get people to work, as opposed to keep borrowing money to continue year after year unemployment compensation, we are actually causing the reverse to happen, keeping the existing policy. This is a very, very tough decision for me, but it's a decision in which I will support the Senate and the House in making, and I will sign that as one of my first pieces of legislation as governor. This is to rebuild the economy of North Carolina. Let me tell you one other thing that we've had to deal with within the first 4 weeks of being in office. Our Department of Health and Human Services has a totally broken down system of operations. Today, I stood with Democratic State Auditor Beth Wood and embraced an audit that they've had, that they did between the years of 2009 and 2012, in which they basically said the operations of Medicaid in North Carolina are broken. We're spending almost more money for administrative costs than 90% of the states in the United States of America. Every penny we spend on administration cost is money that we're taking out of people that desperately need this Medicaid. And we're going to solve that problem. So I stood next to Beth Wood as she made the announcement of this audit, which was highly critical of how we've been implementing this government operation in the state of North Carolina for a long, long time. And my Secretary of Health and Human Services, Aldona Voss, stood there also with me and said, we are going to fix it. Because the more money we spend on administration, the less money the people in need are getting. We want to help those people in need. But we need to implement efficient operations, get rid of the fraud, and we need to start doing it today. The status quo is no longer acceptable here in North Carolina. Let me talk about some long-term issues that we're dealing with, and I'm being very frank with you. Right now, if we want to continue to build, if we want to build the economy here in Rocky Mount, or in Guilford County, or in Wake County, or in Greenville, anywhere in North Carolina, we're going to have to update and reform our tax system in North Carolina. Because Bob McDonnell in Virginia, and Nikki Haley in South Carolina, and Bill Haslam, the governor of Tennessee, are doing everything they can to steal business from North Carolina. It's kind of like the way the business is right now. Business is not growing unless you steal from someone else. That's the kind of stagnant economy that we're in right now. The way you grow is you take it from someone else. And that's exactly what other states are attempting to do to North Carolina. I don't plan to lose to Bill Haslam in Tennessee or Nikki Haley in South Carolina or Bob McDonnell. They're all good friends. We're going to compete against them. And one of the ways we're going to do it is we're going to reform our tax system. And right now we're working with the members of the Senate and House and looking at ways especially that we can decrease the income tax and possibly the corporate tax to remain competitive with those next door neighbors and with states throughout the nation. This is happening throughout the nation. Mark Walker, Chris Christie, Bobby Jindal in Louisiana just made an announcement to completely revise their tax system in Louisiana. Surely we're not going to get beat by Louisiana, are we? We are in a competitive world, and we better wake up and adapt to that competitive world. And that's why we're going to take some risk, but we're going to do it in a strategic way, and we are going to reform the tax system so at a minimum we're competitive in the tax rates with our neighboring states, because the rest of North Carolina speaks for itself. We're the best state in the United States of America. The second thing that I'm going to work on with my legislature and with universities and K through 12 schools and community colleges throughout the state is this, is we need to connect commerce with education. And right now, even though we're one of the highest unemployed states in the nation, I still have employers, even in this region, right now, and you have a 14% or almost a 14% unemployment rate, I still have some of your employers tell me we can't find qualified employees to fill our openings. There is no excuse for that. And that, to me, says there's a disconnect between our educational institutions and our commerce institutions, and we're all to blame for this. And what I want to do is a two-tier approach in education. And this has been misrepresented in the Raleigh News Observer during the last 2 days, like I'm just amazed. But the fact of the matter is, I believe there are two purposes to education. First, there's a purpose, as my dad always said, to exercise your brain, to develop those critical thinking skills, to develop their problem-solving skills, to learn history, to learn writing, to learn liberal arts, so you have a grasp of the bigger issues at hand. But I also think there's another reason for education in addition to that, and that is to learn some skills which will get you a job once you graduate, and that adapts to the job market needs that we have today and for tomorrow. And employers are telling me that they will not move here or they will not stay here unless they find qualified employees to do the job. And instead of just having the legislative formula for our schools be based upon the number of people that go to the schools, it should also include a formula which looks at the results of what the schools are doing. It's a combination of both. It should not be one method of just you get more money based upon how many students you recruit or have. I want to look at how many jobs are we actually placing our students in. I'm not planning to build that curriculum. I want the educators and commerce people to help build that curriculum. But it's a combination of the two. And I want to give some flexibility to educators and to schools and two-year community colleges and our K through 12 and our universities to adapt to the marketplace needs right now. And one way we're going to be doing it, and we'll be announcing it down the road, is we're going to also make sure that we introduce in our budget more technology for our schools. This concept of the iPad is going to revolutionize education. It already is. And instead of North Carolina following other people, I want North Carolina to lead the effort. Because with the iPad, or with our incredible technology right now, any student anywhere in North Carolina can take from the best teachers, the best courses from any place, not only else in North Carolina, but throughout the world. Education is going to be changing so dramatically due to technology. North Carolina has to be one of the leaders in this effort. And I think our students will get a better education as a result with good teachers leading that effort. But in addition to that, it'll be better for the taxpayers. No longer can education be just about bricks and mortar. It's got to get back to what we are teaching our kids, the results of that teaching. And that's my goal in North Carolina. Let me just mention a couple of other things quickly. and I mentioned this during my debate here in Rocky Mount, is that you're even doing some interesting infrastructure projects right in downtown Rocky Mount. I am convinced there is a role for government, and one of the major roles for government is to build the necessary infrastructure to support the private sector, the necessary highways, the necessary water and sewer service, the necessary airports. The list goes on and on and on. We have to make sure that we have an energy plan, a communications plan, a water plan, and a transportation plan for the next 25 years in the state of North Carolina. As mayor of Charlotte, one of the first things I did in 1995 as a young 39-year-old was say, why don't we develop a 25-year transportation plan? And we were, what are you doing? Why don't we just build that road down the block next week, and that'll be our plan? I went, no, we're going to show our vision for the future. And my new Secretary of Transportation, Tony Tata, who was a general in Afghanistan, is going to lead that effort in developing a 25-year transportation plan for the North Carolina, where we can show industry then where our investments are going to be and where they then can invest along those infrastructure investments that you are going to make and that I'm going to support. This is what our competition's doing, and I plan to beat our competition this effort. Eisenhower was a hero of mine, and we don't talk about Eisenhower enough, but one of the great things Eisenhower did as president was he implemented an infrastructure plan for our nation, connecting the east with the west, the rural with the urban. Why don't we borrow from Eisenhower and do the same thing in North Carolina? And we need to start now. It takes a long time, but let's show the people that vision and introduce that vision now. If Tony Tata can build roads in Afghanistan under fire, surely he can do it right here in North Carolina. He was a general in Afghanistan. He'll do fine as DOT representative. The last thing I want to talk about in economic development is this, is we are working right now in introducing an energy plan for the state of North Carolina. If you look at the states that are very successful in job creation and low unemployment, it is those states that took some initiative for energy exploration, both off-coast and inland drilling. We are immediately beginning steps to find out what is the capability in North Carolina with regarding energy exploration. We're doing policy reviews right now that make sure it's environmentally sound and safe, but at the same time, we're approaching industry to see what the market conditions are right here in North Carolina. We have sat on the sidelines for over a decade while other states have moved ahead. We have fallen behind, and what I want to do is catch up and then exceed these other states and create jobs for all of North Carolina in energy exploration. This is going to be controversial, it's going to be tough, but if we do it right, we help with our energy independence, we continue to have a safe environment, and we create new jobs in North Carolina for the next generation. But we have to start that process now. I'm also going to be working with our neighboring states. One minute they're competitors, the next minute they're partners. I'm working with Bob McDonnell and Nikki Haley, in which we'll form a coalition of states along the Atlantic seaboard to work on the federal government to begin initiatives for offshore drilling for natural gas. And this will be a coordinated effort with our neighboring states because they also face those same challenges. So we're beginning that process of discussions with our neighboring states right now to form a southeastern coalition for energy exploration. We are not standing still in job creation. I just want to let you know that I have put together a team on my cabinet that I'm very proud of. And the directive I've given this team is to identify where the problems are and solve the problems with long-term fixes, not short-term fixes, because short-term fixes usually create more long-term problems. And I'm very, very proud of my team, including Bill Daltrich. And that's exactly what he's doing. That's exactly what Tony Tata is doing. That's what Aldona Voss is doing, my Department of Health and Human Services. The list goes on. I'm proud to announce that I've made another appointment official today on a major operation in the state of North Carolina, and that is the ABC system here in North Carolina. It's very crucial to the counties. It's very crucial to giving money to the counties to deal with addiction issues. and it's a business the state of North Carolina is in all 100 counties. Well, today I'm proud to announce that the director of the ABC system for the next 2 years is going to be the Honorable Jim Gardner from Rocky Mount, North Carolina. His retail business experience, his ethics, his values, his energy, which is absolutely incredible. It's going to be a tough job. But I've given him the same responsibility that I've given my cabinet officials, and that is do a review of the business structure, see where we need to improve the operations, and then do it. And make sure you hire the right people around you to make sure that we're using our tax dollars in the most efficient way possible. And then if we are, we return more monies to the counties to help those people in need. That is his responsibility starting today. As you can see, I haven't forgotten about Rocky Mount. I've surrounded my people with people who grew up with the values and the business ethics and the spirit of this great city. As I look at Rocky Mount, it often follows the good, the bad, and the tough times that we're having in this state. And my goal is to help your local leaders and help your businesses rebuild the economy in this area. And instead of living off of an economic development plan that's been around since 1985 in the state of North Carolina, we have not updated the economic development plan in North Carolina since 1985. We're going to create a new plan, and we're going to do it with your input, with your involvement, with your commitment, and with your energy. And we're going to do it with a sense of urgency, realizing that if we don't do it, the competition will. And we plan to beat the competition. God bless each one of you. It's great being back in Rocky Mount. Thank you very much. Thank you. Thank you.
We would like to take this opportunity to honor one of our own, Sharon A. Johnson, whose 32-year career was dedicated to the Chamber and our members. Sherry had a special talent of organizing events and programs, a gift of making everyone in attendance feel welcome, and in doing all of this with grace and style. We owe her thanks for the partnerships and collaborations she worked so diligently for. Many of these partnerships and collaborations are still going on strong today. Sherry, thank you for your endless devotion to the Chamber. Your efforts have left a legacy for all of our members to enjoy for many years to come. Sherry, could you please join me on stage and accept the gift that we have for you on behalf of your grateful Chamber.
Well, gosh, this is certainly something I wasn't prepared for. And I would just like to say it has been wonderful with my 32 years with the Chamber. It's absolutely wonderful. It was a pleasure. It was a joy. And I'm not prepared to go back to work, however. But it's been just such a nice experience. And working with the friends that I've made in the business community, with the partnerships over the years that we have developed over the many, many years. And all that has been so important to me, and I hope it has to you as well. So thank you very much, and I appreciate the honor.
What would a Chamber be without volunteers? Our hardest working volunteers are often our ambassadors. At this time, I would like to recognize our Chamber ambassadors and ask them to stand as a group. Please stand. We're having a tough time tonight. The ambassadors work tirelessly during the year to ensure the success of our organization. No group better epitomizes the meaning of volunteerism than our Chamber ambassadors. Please join me in saying thank you. Now, this is my segue into recognizing our 2012 Ambassador of the Year. A native of the Rocky Mount area and graduate from Northwest High School, her first job taught her the real meaning of customer service. lessons she has taken with her throughout her career. Nicknamed the office negotiator, because she can always close the deal. She's a creator and a planner of many notable promotions benefiting local nonprofits and their fundraising efforts. She definitely believes in the credo, under-promise and over-deliver. She officially became an ambassador in 2009, but I have a feeling she was a positive force of nature on our part for many years prior. She consistently volunteers for every chamber ribbon cutting, and let me tell you, there are a lot of ribbon cuttings. I know Mayor Combs can attest to that. Business after hours and events. She is a member of the Chamber's Events Committee, member of the Rocky Mount Business Builders, serves as the president of the Women's Professional Networking Group, and a friend to many of us. Please help me welcome our 2012 Ambassador of the Year, Sharon Macon, with First Media Radio. Sharon, please come forward.
Good evening to everyone, and thank you for standing in your applause. First, let me give honor to God and thank Him for everything He's done to me. And for all of you I know and all of you I don't know, let me just say thank you for how you make my job and life easy for me. I wasn't prepared for this, and to be honest, this is my first reward I ever received. But I thank you, and what I do, I don't consider it a job. I consider it just fun and hanging out with family. So all of you now are officially part of my family. Thank you.
The Woody Brown Award recipient is selected by Chamber staff and given each year to a person that has given above and beyond the call of duty when it comes to promoting, enhancing, marketing, and being an overall exemplary Chamber advocate. This award is in honor of a true Chamber advocate. Woody Brown was passionate about the community and his Chamber, which was evidenced throughout his life of civic involvement. Woody Brown was always on the scene. In fact, he really worked best behind the scenes. This year's recipient is not so different from Woody Brown himself, always behind the scenes, at the heart of so many good things happening in the community. After a successful business career, this individual discovered his entrepreneurial drive and became one of our area's most passionate, community-oriented individuals. If it's happening in town, he's all over it. A past president of the JCs, a fundraising partner with the Red Cross, Relay for Life, and the Christian Fellowship Home, a great supporter of small business and chamber work. I cannot say much more about this individual without everyone guessing who our Woody Brown Award winner is. I'm not going to sing it, but I will say, so without further ado, ladies and gentlemen, we are proud to present the 2012 Woody Brown Award to none other than Herb Greenberg of WHIG-TV. Herb, please come forward. Two bald-headed guys.
I just don't know what to say other than thank you. I knew Woody Brown. He was a great leader and a great individual. And wow, I'm excited. Thank you very much.
The most prestigious of all chamber honors is the Distinguished Citizen Award, presented to a well-deserving community servant who has demonstrated unparalleled commitment and contribution throughout the greater Rocky Mount community. He or she has shown consistent dedication to the improvement of the area's quality of life, promoted and advanced the welfare of all residents, and place first and foremost the well-being of the community while exhibiting unselfish commitment and positive influence of leadership. I am pleased to recognize Dr. Gaylord L. Lehman, who will introduce our Distinguished Citizen of the Year for the 5th time in the history of this award, I believe. Welcome, Dr. Lehman.
One of the happiest things that I get to do from time to time is to introduce and announce the Chamber's Distinguished Citizen Award. Over the years, the one quality of all of these winners has been that they have consistently enhanced the quality of life in our community. These persons are a veritable who's who of our city. In most years, in past years, most of the recipients have been homegrown. Many of them graduated from Rocky Mount High School, and they came back from college to work in their own hometown, to run a family business, or to begin a new venture. But in recent years, we've also honored those who have come to us from other places, and those who have helped lift us out of our provincialism of eastern North Carolina. Previously, we have honored persons from almost every profession: business, industry, law, education, politics. Tonight is a first. Tonight is the first time that we will recognize someone from the medical profession. Among our community's greatest assets are our doctors and the quality of medical care that is available to us in our city. Tonight's award is, in a way, an honor for all of those who prescribe Tamiflu and replace knees and give stress tests and administer chemotherapy and read x-rays and all of the other things that doctors do to promote health and wellness. The doc that we honor this year is one of those persons who has come to us from outside our area. He came here referring to us as you guys, because he didn't know how to say y'all and all y'all. He has had a learning curve. And the reason for that is that he grew up in a small town in the Midwest in northern Ohio. He graduated from The Ohio State University, received his medical education there, went on to Duke for his residency, and came to Rocky Mount in the mid-1970s. He proudly flies a flag with a scarlet letter on it, a big red O. For 2 years, he played football for the Buckeyes under legendary coach Woody Hayes before he himself was sidelined by a medical issue. And every year, on the last weekend of the football season, he still wears a big button that says, "Beat Michigan," which leaves most of his patients rather puzzled, because that doesn't mean a lot to us here in the ACC. If you ask why tonight's winner receives this award, I would answer in 2 parts. One is that he is an amazingly talented physician, and his compassion for people is his hallmark. But that could be said for most of the physicians who serve us in our community. So probably the primary reason for this award is the way our recipient put that compassion to work for the poor and the underprivileged and those who live on the underside of life. For him, that meant a strong desire to offer medical care for those uninsured and unable to afford it. Back in 2007, a group of people met informally to discuss a free medical clinic in our city. In every group that advocates a cause, there has to be one person who is willing to roll up his or her sleeves and tackle the nuts and bolts of putting the project together. Tonight's honoree became the moving force behind that free clinic to help meet those needs. He recruited other doctors. He enlisted volunteers. He led fundraising. He sought out a building. He helped hire a director. The result was the beginning, in 2008, of the Tar River Mission Clinic, which began providing care for the low-income and the uninsured. Since that time, he has continually treated clinic patients and chaired the board that oversees clinic operations. I'm not going to bore you with statistics, but two figures stand out. In the past 4.5 years, there have been more than 6,000 patient visits to the Tar River Mission Clinic. That clinic has provided or arranged over $4 million worth of free medical health services. Nash Healthcare Systems has been an invaluable supporter by providing clinic space and free laboratory and radiology services. But it was our recipient who was the founding father, who helped give birth to the idea and who stayed with it from conception all the way through to fulfillment. He answered the biblical challenge to do it for the least of these who are unable to afford their own care. Our honoree has not accomplished these things by himself. He was lovingly supported by his wife and partner, Irene, until her death. After a time, along came Sharon to relight the candle and to provide a new sense of purpose. His daughter, Kim, and Sharon's adult children, Heath, Amber, and Jessica, complete the immediate family. And there may even be some other family members and good friends who are lurking somewhere in the shadows tonight to help celebrate this event with him. I was his patient. He was my parishioner. But most of all, he is a valued friend. And I know him well enough to know that he will be very, very uncomfortable receiving this award. In fact, our greatest challenge was in figuring out a way to get him here to give it to him. But he is here, and here he is. The winner of this year's Chamber of Commerce Distinguished Citizen Award is Dr. John Derbyshire.
shocked, surprised, and honored. And I'm going to kill some people when I get home. I was talking to Gaylord about how much time I had to speak, and he said, keep it under 30 minutes, so I promise you I'll be home by 10 o'clock. A lot of lessons we learn in life. One of the lessons is we never function in a vacuum. We function with other people, our families, and I love you all. Our friends, and I love you all. But we also function in a community. This community embraced me when I came here in 1976. And you look around at this community, we're very, very special. And I thank you from the bottom of my heart for allowing me to be part of this community. Everything that you accomplish is around people better than you. There are many men and women in this community and many men and women in this auditorium that deserve this much more than I do. So this has been a great honor for me. Thank you very much. And after you hear the governor and after you see the people here, Rocky Mount is not in any trouble at all. Thank you very much.
Now the part of the evening that I've been looking forward to for a few days. And I'm getting ready to introduce our 2013 chairman in a few minutes, but I don't think I really need to introduce our chairman because this person has done, if there's anything in this community that needs to be done or is happening, he's involved. He's a special person. But as my final official duty, it is my pleasure tonight to introduce to you our 2013 chairman of the board, Bill Lanus, owner of Chick-fil-A of Cobb Corners. He's a dedicated family man and a true community servant, and I underline true community servant. Formerly from Greenville, South Carolina, but came north as soon as he could. He graduated from the University of South Carolina Upstate, where he received a BS in business management. That's very tempting. Has served in various leadership roles in the community, including, now, I know Dr. Derbyshire said he's had 30 minutes, but I think I need 45 minutes here. Past board member for Our Lady Perpetual Help Catholic School and Church, where he continues to be active. Former board member for Nash Community College Foundation. Former board member for the Boys and Girls Club of Nash and Edgecombe counties. Immediate past chairman of the board for the Turnage chapter of the American Red Cross. Meals on Wheels chairman of the board for the last 2 years. Board member for the Stony Creek Fire and Rescue. Current board member for Rocky Mount Community Foundation. Current board member of Nash County Travel and Tourism and Tourism Development Authority. Bill was the 1998 winner of the Small Business of the Year Award. Bill was a founding member of the Shop Local, Buy Local campaign. He's married to Kim. They have 3 daughters, Shelley, Kelly, and Liz, a 6-month-old grandson, Will, and they are expecting another grandchild in April. Y'all are too young to have grandchildren. Loves to spend his time with his family and ride motorcycles. Bill is certainly an active in our community, and I'm truly excited, not just for the fact that my tenure is behind me, but he is a true leader, and I'm looking forward to his leadership in 2013. Please help me welcome Bill Lanus. Bill, will you please come forward?
Thank you, Lodge. Thank you for that wonderful introduction. You're very kind, and it's great comfort following your strong leadership after this past year. It is an honor to be the chairman of the Rocky Mount Area Chamber of Commerce, and I'm excited about 2013. Jim, let me first thank you for all you did. Jim was when we first introduced or offered the governor to come and be our speaker tonight. We called Jim Gardner and asked him to encourage him to accept our invitation. And after I don't know how many phone calls, he finally gave us a lot of support and enthusiasm and encouragement, and finally came through with a positive answer. So, Jim, thank you for all you've done. The Chamber is a membership organization geared to promote not only the business community, but the community as a whole. Your Chamber staff and leadership are dedicated to making this year a very successful one. You should have a copy of the program of work in front of you. We developed this program of work at our annual retreat back in October. We have branded it Strengthening Our Area for Economic Prosperity. Our primary focus will be on community development, education, workforce development, and governmental affairs and business advocacy. Like anything, you get out of life what you put into it. The Chamber and your community is no different. I encourage you to consider serving one of our committees. This will allow you some direct input into the direction that the Chamber goes. If you're interested, please see Teresa Pinto at the Chamber offices, and she'll be glad to assist you. You can also become involved by becoming an ambassador. We recognized some earlier and talked about their important role in the Chamber. And if you'd like to become an ambassador or get more information, please see Julia Farmer down at the Chamber. You may submit an article for a weekly email blast, the Chamber and Business Newswire. And of course, you can attend our business after hours for networking opportunities. You pay to be a member of the Chamber, so please take advantage of your investment. We cannot ignore the difficult times that we're experiencing in our area and the impact that it has on our friends and our families. But we also need to remind ourselves that it's not just exclusive to the Twin Counties. Our community needs employers. We need to continue to recruit new businesses, as well as work with the existing businesses to help them remain viable. One opportunity you have to do this is to purchase everything from business services to retail needs locally. As Lige alluded to earlier, I was part of the committee that helped develop and secure the funding for the Buy Local campaign back in 2005. I have a big passion for this initiative because I realize how much it can negatively affect our community if we're investing our disposable dollars in other communities. If we're supporting their job base instead of ours, if we're supporting their schools instead of ours, and if we're supporting their infrastructure instead of our own. So please, whenever possible, buy local. It's easy to complain and talk about what we should have done or what we shouldn't have done or what should do. And I challenge you to ask yourself, what have I done to have a positive impact on my community? The Twin County needs to work together as one community to address our weaknesses. But we also have to come together as one community to accentuate the great things in our area that we have to offer. This includes our everyday conversations with each other. I would challenge you to seek out the opportunity to talk about the good things going on in the Twin Counties, not the bad things. There's a lot of good things going on and a lot of change that's happening within the Twin Counties. We have a new president at the Chamber, Teresa Pinto. We have fairly new superintendents in both Nash Rocky Mount Public Schools and Edgecombe County Public Schools. We have the STEP organization up and running, a collaboration with our regional education systems, bringing business and educators together to discuss and ensure that we're preparing the students for a successful future. Nash Healthcare System is a major expansion with a new emergency department, a new pediatric emergency department, and they're expanding their heart center. Hospira is having a major expansion put in now. The streetscaping, as the governor alluded to, downtown Rocky Mount. Edgecombe County with their new charter school. And you look in the school system, there's always something good going on with student achievement, athletics, or in the arts. So again, I would challenge you to seek out the opportunities to talk about the positive things going on within your community. If we begin talking positive about ourselves and our community, we'll begin to feel better about ourselves and our community. If we feel better about ourselves, we can do anything. Your chamber is here for you, and we thank you for your investment. And together, we can make a difference. So let's get started. Thank you for coming tonight. And as your 2013 chairman of the chamber, and that has a nice ring to it, I declare this meeting adjourned. Please drive safely on your way home.